Imagine waking up one day and realizing that the very sensation you've been fleeing from, the tightness in your chest, the racing in your mind, the invisible weight pushing down on your ribcage, is not your enemy, but a cryptic messenger. Not a faulty system gone haywire, but a voice emerging from the depths of your unconscious, urgently trying to tell you something. What if anxiety, the shadow you spend your days evading, was never meant to destroy you at all, but to illuminate what lies buried within you? There is an unsettling paradox here. You want desperately for the anxiety to go away. But what if its disappearance left you blind to the truth your soul insists you must see? Could it be that the pain you label as dysfunction is in fact an invitation? That the restlessness gnawing at your stomach isn't proof that you are broken, but proof that something within you still fights to awaken? Hold that thought. Our culture demands that you treat anxiety as a defect, like a broken bone that must be set straight, a chemical imbalance to be neutralized, an unnecessary interference with the smooth machinery of modern life. Logically, biologically, therapeutically, it must be fixed. Yet deep down you may sense a contradiction. After all, why would evolution design such an excruciating experience if it served no purpose? Fear, yes, fear keeps us alive. But anxiety is more than fear. Often it surges not when you're standing on the edge of a cliff or trapped in physical danger, but when you're sitting in a quiet room, safe, unharmed, and yet restless to the point of madness. How do we explain that? Consider this. Perhaps anxiety is not triggered by your immediate environment, but by the unbearable dissonance between the life you are living and the life you are meant to live. You are surrounded by safety, comfort, the conveniences of civilized existence. Yet within your chest burns a visceral alarm. Isn't it strange how one part of you says, "I should be fine," while another insists, "I cannot rest here"? Which part should you trust? Here lies the great question. What if anxiety is not a malfunction to remove, but a compass to follow? What if those racing thoughts, that gnawing dread, that tightening throat are signals, like flares fired into the night sky by a shipwrecked sailor, meant to pull your attention toward what has been ignored, repressed, or denied? And yet, just as quickly as you clutch this possibility, doubt intrudes. Anxiety feels corrosive. It cripples action, distorts perception, gnaws away at joy. How could such a torment, a force that often makes life unbearable, possibly be benevolent in disguise? But consider another paradox. Medicine tastes bitter before it heals. Fire burns before it forges. Could anxiety's torment be a brutal but necessary teacher, demanding you confront truths you'd otherwise run from forever? Anxiety thrives in contradictions. You wish to control it, yet the more you try, the more it spirals. You long for calm but find yourself hypervigilant, monitoring even your efforts to relax. You search for certainty, but are suffocated by endless what-ifs. Anxiety is a disease of opposites, longing for control but meeting chaos, longing for simplicity but drowning in complexity. What does it mean that the thing you hate most in yourself is also the part of you most alert to contradictions baked into existence itself? Stop for a moment and feel it. The ambiguity, the unsettledness, the sense of being suspended between two truths at once. Anxiety demands that you become intimate with that suspension. It refuses to let you anchor falsely, refuses the shallow comfort of easy answers. Could that be its hidden role? Not destruction, but disruption. Not madness, but resistance against a life lived unexamined. Most people numb it, medicate it, drown it under distractions. They scroll, they drink, they grind themselves down with productivity until exhaustion erases the voice whispering beneath their ribs. But what happens when the numbing no longer silences the storm? What happens when, no matter how much you distract yourself, the dread remains, like a dark figure always waiting for you in the corner of the room? Perhaps then, the real terror is not the anxiety itself, but the possibility that ignoring it means abandoning the truth it carries. What if anxiety keeps returning, precisely because something vital in you refuses to be buried alive? Could it be that the weight you struggle against is not a chain, but a hand pulling you toward a deeper reality? And so you stand at a threshold. On one side, the conventional belief that anxiety is nothing more than a malfunction. On the other, the possibility that it is a signal, even a gift, in monstrous disguise. The choice is unsettling, because if anxiety is a message, then you cannot merely make it vanish. You must listen. But listen to what? And where will that listening lead you? The questions spiral deeper. Is your anxiety revealing that the self you present to the world is only a mask? Is it exposing unmet desires, unlived dreams, unspoken truths? Or is anxiety whispering something even more radical? That the very fabric of existence is unstable, that our longing for certainty is an illusion, and our unease is the price of recognizing it. The question remains, burning, unsettled, unavoidable. What is your anxiety actually trying to tell you? The hidden problem and its psychological, philosophical roots. You felt the pulse of the question. Anxiety, that restless visitor, may not be an error, but a messenger. Now, let us venture closer, peeling back the layers of illusion that make its presence feel so suffocating. Why does it exist in the first place? What hidden soil does this bitter fruit grow from? To answer, you must confront something far more unsettling than the superficial narratives you've been sold. Anxiety is not only about overactive brains, faulty neurotransmitters, or maladaptive stress responses. Those may be its masks, its immediate costumes, but beneath lies something vast and ancient, a philosophical hunger for meaning, and a psychological rift between who you are told to be and who you actually are. Carl Jung once wrote that neurosis is always a substitute for legitimate suffering. That statement alone cracks the foundation of how most of us think about anxiety. Jung suggests that anxiety is not arbitrary torment, but compensation, a distorted echo screaming on behalf of the suffering you refuse to face honestly. Instead of confronting despair, grief, emptiness, or radical change, you sidestep them, and in the act of avoidance, your psyche generates anxiety as an unresolved energy. Like an unpaid debt, it accrues interest over time, haunting you until attention is paid. Think about this in your own life. How often has your anxiety grown louder the more you've resisted acknowledging some truth about your relationships, your work, your desires, your mortality? It's as though anxiety is your psyche's final resort. Since you will not face me willingly, I will corner you with panic until you have no choice but to listen. Nietzsche saw this pain too. He argued that human beings are meaning makers, and when denied meaning, they decay. His words resonate like a warning flare. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Anxiety arises then when the why is missing, or when your life is oriented around false ones. Ideals fed to you by culture, media, or expectations that clash with your deeper instincts. Work harder, earn more, look perfect, project confidence. That's the modern sermon. And yet once worshipped, these idols reveal themselves to be hollow. Your soul rebels, sending its fury into your body, and you name it anxiety. Arthur Schopenhauer offered an even more ruthless lens. He believed life is saturated with suffering because desire is endless. Every time you satisfy a need, another arises, leaving you caught in an eternal cycle of striving and disappointment. Anxiety, then, becomes the whisper of this truth, that the treadmill of consumerist life, the endless chase for next, will never grant you arrival. Culturally, we are conditioned to keep moving, to keep producing. And so when your body or mind resists, when it hesitates, when it signals dread, that resistance is cast as dysfunction. But perhaps it is not dysfunction at all, but clarity. Viktor Frankl, survivor of the concentration camps, challenged this despair with another vision. What rescues a person from anxiety is not comfort, not possessions, but discovery of deeper meaning, even in suffering. Frankl called it the will to meaning, a drive as primal and urgent as hunger or thirst. Anxiety, under his gaze, is not pointless. It is the body's alarm clock, shouting that you are out of alignment with the meaning that grants your existence weight. So what creates this hidden problem in our era? You live in a society engineered to confuse you about what matters. Advertisements weaponize your insecurities to make you consume. Social media presents distorted images of perfection, convincing you everyone else has already found certainty. Productivity culture measures your worth in metrics, hours, efficiency. What happens when the inner voice, yearning for authenticity and depth, collides with a world demanding speed, conformity, and perpetual distraction? The collision sparks anxiety and existential friction. Psychologically, it is a fracture between your authentic self and your adaptive persona. Jung called the authentic core the self, and the social mask the persona. Your persona must adapt to survive, but when the mask grows so rigid it strangles the deeper self, the unconscious revolts. And one of its most powerful revolts is anxiety. In other words, your panic attacks may be your truest self pounding on the walls of the prison that your persona has constructed. This isn't just abstract philosophy. Modern psychology echoes the same truth through the language of cognitive dissonance. When your actions, values, or identity clash, it sparks mental disquiet so intense it pushes the nervous system into alarm. The dread you feel when you enter a job that betrays your integrity, or when you silence a truth in a relationship you desperately need to speak. That is anxiety reminding you something sacred is at stake. But here lies the cruel irony. Society, instead of helping you decode anxiety, teaches you to numb it, to shame it, to seal the cracks where truth might leak through. You end up alienated, not just from others, but from yourself. Jean Paul Sartre named this alienation bad faith, a form of self-deception, living in denial of your freedom and responsibility. Anxiety returns because bad faith may numb consciousness for a moment, but it cannot fully erase the tremors of truth. And so, anxiety lives not merely as a personal quirk or imbalance, but as a cultural wound and existential inheritance. It is the heirloom of a species that knows its own mortality, trapped in systems that promise security but deliver emptiness. The hidden problem, then, is not that anxiety exists. It is that you were taught to see it as an intruder instead of a herald. You were told to extinguish it instead of to listen. You were asked to manage it, to remain functional in a system that profits from your silence. But beneath all of this, anxiety points insistently at truths you've been too afraid, too conditioned, too distracted to confront. It whispers that comfort is not enough, that appearances are lies, that your mask may crack at any moment, and beneath it, another life is begging to be lived. The roots are now uncovered. Existential dread sewn into human nature, cultural forces demanding inauthenticity, and the deep psychological split between mask and self. But what happens when these roots grow unchecked? When you spend years, decades, ignoring their cries, the story grows darker still. This leads us to the next threshold, where polite philosophies give way to consequence. Anxiety does not merely trouble your thoughts, it reshapes the architecture of your life in ways you cannot see until it is too late. The unseen consequences. You've glimpsed the hidden roots of anxiety, the fracture between the authentic self and the mask, the existential void dressed in consumerist clothing, the tension philosophers and psychologists named but rarely softened. Now we must turn and examine what happens when this force goes unacknowledged. The price of ignoring anxiety is not simply internal turbulence, it seeps outward. It reshapes the choices you make, the relationships you pursue, and the culture you create. Anxiety, when denied, is like underground water pressure. It carves invisible caverns beneath the surface until, one day, the ground collapses beneath your feet. Consider your own life. How many decisions have you made not because they felt right, but because they eased anxiety temporarily? Maybe you accepted a job you despised because the uncertainty of waiting, the dread of not knowing, penetrated too deeply. Perhaps you stayed in a relationship long past its honesty's expiration date because the thought of solitude, of facing yourself alone in a silent apartment, was unbearable. These are the unseen consequences. Rather than confronting the root, you move toward the lesser dread, trading authenticity for momentary relief. But that bargain comes at the cost of decades. The Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard called anxiety the dizziness of freedom, the recognition that infinite choices surround you, and with each, the weight of responsibility presses harder. Many shrink from this freedom. They soothe it by choosing conformity, by numbing with distraction. Yet the anxiety never dissolves. It simply calcifies into regret. How many lives do you see around you lived as half-lives? Careers maintained without pulse, marriages endured without intimacy, friendships fed on obligation instead of honesty. This is the world quietly constructed by unseen anxiety. On the neurological level, anxiety rewires your brain. Each fearful anticipation strengthens the amygdala, the primal alarm bell, while weakening the prefrontal cortex's ability to regulate calmly. Over time, this makes neutrality difficult. You see danger even in silence. An unanswered text becomes the seed of catastrophe. A pause in conversation unfurls into suspicion. A single bodily sensation metastasizes into thoughts of doom. You begin living in a predictive model, where every moment is stained by dread's possibility. Life itself feels less like exploration and more like surveillance. This heightened vigilance has cultural echoes. Entire societies build industries upon anxious anticipation. Consider advertising. It thrives by convincing you of lack, igniting worry about status, appearance, productivity, and desirability. Social media amplifies it. The endless scrolling heightens comparison, and every comparison feeds the low-level hum of not enough. What goes unseen is how deeply this emotional state normalizes itself. You may believe your anxiety is personal. In reality, it has been engineered, nurtured, and profited from until it becomes collective. The private dread of not appearing successful enough is really a cultural epidemic, disguised as individual weakness. Relationships crumble under this weight too. Anxiety makes you hypersensitive to rejection, and what is more fragile than love under the constant interrogation of, "Are you sure?" Doubt, fueled by anxiety, plants mistrust even when none exists, turning devotion into surveillance, affection into interrogation, or, craving certainty, you fuse with the other, clinging until the relationship becomes suffocating. A desperate attempt to escape the raw solitude anxiety keeps dragging you back to. Both outcomes create what Freud might call repetition compulsion. You unconsciously recreate the very loss or rejection you fear, playing it out again and again. But the most haunting consequence is existential paralysis. Sartre warned that human beings, faced with their radical freedom, often flee into bad faith, living inauthentically to avoid the terror of choice. Anxiety enforces this exile. Instead of making bold, risky choices aligned with your deeper longing, you orbit the safer, smaller ones. You study a subject not because you love it, but because it promises stability. You delay art, words, confessions, until someday, and someday becomes a coffin. This subtle avoidance writes the architecture of an entire life. There is also the bodily toll. Chronic anxiety does not remain psychological. It reorganizes your physiology. Stress hormones surge endlessly. Cortisol, adrenaline, muscles tighten, digestion falters, sleep withers. Over years, anxiety crafts silent illnesses, heart disease, immune dysfunction, premature aging. In short, ignoring anxiety doesn't grant you peace of mind. It rents space inside your body, carving its messages into your tissues. But here lurks another paradox. Anxiety cripples you, and yet it safely cages you. It becomes strangely familiar, almost comforting in its predictability. You avoid uncertainty by staying within its walls. You know what dread feels like. It's awful, but known. What you don't know is freedom without it. This creates an invisible addiction. You adapt to your own suffering, fearing the very liberation you secretly long for. Anxiety becomes both tormentor and protector, locking you in but preventing you from risks that could destroy you or save you. Now widen the lens further. Imagine millions trapped the same way. A generation paralyzed by perfectionism, unable to risk, unable to speak their truths, unable to stop scrolling, always distracted, always restless, never present. What culture emerges? One that is fast but hollow, efficient but joyless. Creativity shrinks, innovation falters, relationships shallow, and governments, corporations, institutions benefit from your paralysis because anxious people are easily guided by promises of security. Anxiety, left unchecked, is political. It breeds compliance, docility, predictability. The unseen consequence is not just personal illness. It is collective quietude under systems that quietly erode life's depth. Perhaps the greatest tragedy of all is that most who suffer this fate never know it was anxiety shaping their choices. They look backward on their lives, jobs endured but unloved, words never spoken, loves never risked, and wonder why fulfillment eluded them. They blame circumstance, bad luck, or personality. Rarely do they see the invisible puppeteer, the chronic avoidance of anxiety that diverted them, moment by moment, into safer but emptier paths. Makings of a life unlived, traceable to the tremor they tried to silence instead of decode. The consequence is clear. Anxiety that is ignored does not leave. It metastasizes, infiltrating every corner of existence until it scripts your destiny for you. The more it is repressed, the more your world shrinks. No wonder Kierkegaard named anxiety the teacher of possibility. It reveals what's at stake only when you are brave enough to face it. Submissive to it, you live half a life. Engaged with it, you may be led somewhere unthinkably new. And that brings us to a choice. You've seen how anxiety emerges and what it costs when exiled to the shadows. The question now is, can you rebel against it? Can you flip the script, letting anxiety no longer be your cage keeper, but your cracked doorway into liberation? To answer, we enter a dangerous territory, rebellion against anxiety itself, not by destroying it, but by listening in such a way that it no longer owns you. The rebellion, how to break free. Anxiety has shadowed you, stalked you, whispered in your skull until you wondered if you were cursed. You've seen how it roots itself in philosophy, psychology, and culture, and you've seen the damage it causes when left unheeded. But now comes the great rupture, the possibility of rebellion. And by rebellion, I do not mean eradicating anxiety like some pestilence to be fumigated. That's the mistake everyone makes, to wage war against it. But have you noticed? Every battle with anxiety feeds it. The harder you fight, the stronger its grip. Anxiety thrives on resistance, like a flame devouring the very oxygen you withhold. To break free doesn't mean to destroy, but to reinterpret, to reframe, to listen differently. Yes, to break free means to do something radical. Turn toward what terrifies you instead of away. Let's be honest, this sounds counterintuitive, even insane. Everything in you is wired to escape dread, to crush discomfort, to stay safe in the fortified edges of control. And yet, paradoxically, the path out is through. As Jung famously remarked, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Anxiety is one such darkness. The rebellion begins with listening to it, not as an enemy, but as an oracle. Start with a simple practice. The next time anxiety flares, the shallow breath, the tangled spirals of thought. Pause, not to banish it, but to ask, what is this trying so desperately to tell me? The very act of treating it as communication, not malfunction, reorients your relationship. Maybe it reveals the truth your job suffocates you, or that you're betraying yourself by staying silent, or that mortality whispers against every trivial distraction. Every pang of dread is a coded message. Listening converts suffering into meaning. But rebellion is not only listening, it is dismantling the structures that anxiety feeds upon. Consider uncertainty. Anxiety thrives in its soil because your mind demands certainty where certainty does not exist. You want confirmation that the future will be safe, that your choices will lead to success, that others will approve, that control will be permanent. But reality laughs at these demands. It has offered no guarantees since the dawn of humankind. Freedom always trembles. The rebellion, then, requires surrender, not to despair, but to uncertainty as an elemental condition of life. Instead of demanding certainty, you practice courage. Courage does not eliminate fear. Courage acts while fear hisses in your ear. Remember the words of Kierkegaard. To relate yourself consciously to anxiety is not weakness, but the beginning of greatness. Now take another weapon of rebellion: authenticity. Anxiety multiplies wherever masks are required. Every moment you pretend to be unfazed, to be successful, to be fine. You widen the gap between self and persona, and the revolt intensifies. To move toward authenticity, you risk exposure. You risk saying, "I am afraid," or "This life no longer fits me," or even, "I want something more." It feels like death, but the alternative is worse. A half-life where anxiety festers unseen. Sartre's bad faith dissolves only when you risk honesty, when you leap into the discomfort of being radically yourself. Examples abound of those who practice this rebellion. Think of Nietzsche, forever sick and burdened, but writing with a thunderous conviction drawn directly from his struggle. Imagine Viktor Frankl, inside the camps, stripped of everything, yet finding strength by choosing how to respond, interpreting suffering as a summons to meaning. These figures did not evade anxiety. They metabolized it, transformed dread into philosophy, art, purpose. Their rebellion was to gaze directly into despair and claim freedom anyway. But rebellion is not philosophy alone. On a psychological level, breaking free entails retraining your nervous system to coexist with discomfort. Practices like exposure therapy, mindfulness, and somatic awareness all embody the same principle. Anxiety fades not when escaped, but when fully allowed. The more you invite anxiety into awareness without judgment, the weaker its claws. The rebellion, in everyday terms, is learning to sit with racing thoughts until they exhaust themselves, not as punishment, but as demonstration that you are larger than the waves crashing inside you. This rebellion also requires dismantling cultural scripts. You must reject the belief that your worth is measured by productivity, perfection, or performance. Every time you resist the demand to appear flawless, you reclaim sovereignty. Rebelling against anxiety is also rebelling against a world that profits from your unrest. Quit the endless scroll. Decline the false urgency. In that refusal, you become subversive, because you reclaim the space to feel and live authentically. One of the most underrated elements of rebellion is imagination. Anxiety constricts vision. It makes you see only disaster. What if you deliberately redirected imagination toward possibility? This doesn't mean naive optimism, but radical openness. What if everything does collapse, and I build something truer from the ruins? By rehearsing possibility instead of only catastrophe, imagination becomes an ally. After all, dread and hope are siblings. Both are born from the power to envision futures. And let's not forget humor. You may not expect humor to dwell here, but humor is rebellion's sly companion. Anxiety thrives when life feels oppressive and absolute. Laughter shatters its spell, reminding you that existence itself is strange, absurd, even comic. To laugh at your dread is not to dismiss it, but to disarm it. Camus spoke of facing the absurd universe without escape, and while he found defiance in revolt, humor is revolt dressed in lighter clothes. Ultimately, the rebellion is a kind of re-enchantment with anxiety, not worshiping it, but recognizing it as a paradoxical teacher. Instead of demanding the world make you comfortable, you practice bearing discomfort with courage, authenticity, imagination, and refusal of false values. And in this act, something extraordinary emerges. Where once anxiety dominated, now it transforms into urgency, vitality, even passion. That churning in your body may no longer feel like chains, but fuel, pointing you toward what matters most. The unease once feared reveals itself as longing disguised. Longing for honesty, longing for growth, longing for a life both fragile and real. You see now, the rebellion was never about liberating yourself from anxiety, but liberating yourself through it. Anxiety was the compass, not the prison. But there is one final threshold to cross, the deepest truth, the most profound realization waiting beneath all this tension. Having followed anxiety from symptom to root, consequence to rebellion, what lies at the core? What is the ultimate truth that has been screaming beneath the noise all along? It is here, in the last descent, that anxiety discloses its most powerful revelation. The ultimate truth, the final, most powerful realization. Pause for a moment. Feel your breath drawing in, then leaving again. Notice the subtle tension, the quiet anticipation of what comes next. That is anxiety's echo. It has been threading through every moment of your life, sometimes quiet, sometimes deafening. And now we stand before the question anxiety has always been whispering beneath its storm. What does it ultimately want you to know? The answer is shattering in its simplicity, yet terrifying in its implications. Anxiety is not merely about danger, not even merely about meaning. At its core, anxiety confronts you with the greatest paradox of existence. You are finite, yet conscious of infinity. You are a being destined to die, yet capable of imagining eternity. Anxiety is the shadow cast by freedom and mortality, colliding in the same fragile creature, you. Martin Heidegger called this being toward death, the awareness that your existence is temporary, precarious, destined to vanish. Most of life is distraction from this reality. We chase success, comfort, recognition, love, not only for their pleasures, but because they mask the silent truth that we are temporary travelers. And yet, the mask always slips. Anxiety is the tear in the veil through which you glimpse your condition. But this is not despair. Hidden within that awareness is the most powerful truth. That transience, that fragility, is precisely what makes your existence luminous. Your life is unbearably urgent because it is limited. The dread you feel is not proof of life's emptiness. It is proof of its weight. If you were infinite, choices wouldn't matter. But because you are finite, every act matters infinitely. Anxiety, when properly understood, is the messenger of this urgency. It squeezes your chest not to crush you, but to awaken you from the anesthetic sleep of distraction. It is saying, do not waste this. Do not live half asleep. Do not abandon freedom to conformity. Every spike of dread, every restless moment, is life's way of shaking you awake and insisting that your existence is not trivial. Think of how anxiety often emerges most fiercely in quiet, when everything is fine, yet something stirs within. That stir is your being calling for authenticity. It is your death awareness insisting you live before the clock runs empty. Sartre captured it when he wrote, "Man is condemned to be free. Condemned because freedom is terrifying. The weight of choice is infinite. And yet, in that terror lies your salvation." The ultimate truth is this: anxiety is not your enemy. Anxiety is your invitation to live fully, fiercely, authentically, knowing time is short. This changes everything. Anxiety is no longer a malfunction, nor even just a signal of misalignment. It is the existential vibration of being alive. To feel anxious is to stand on the knife edge of freedom, gazing into the unknown. It is not pathology. It is participation in life at its rawest edge. Nietzsche intuited this when he urged us to say yes to life, not only in its comforts but in its terrors. His concept of amor fati, the love of fate, was not naive optimism, but the embrace of existence in all its contradictions. To love fate is to love even anxiety, because it is a testament to your freedom, your awareness, your urgency. To deny it is to deny life itself. Let's make this tangible. Consider the anxiety you feel before confessing love, before sharing art, before speaking truth. That dread is not a malfunction. It is the price of authenticity. To feel anxious before risk means you stand on the threshold of meaning. Without anxiety, there is no courage. Without anxiety, no leap into unknown possibilities. Anxiety and freedom are inseparable twins. You cannot embrace one without encountering the other. This is why those who numb anxiety most completely often report feeling empty. Numbness erases not only dread but vitality, not only fear but longing. A medicated silence without listening to the message can dissolve anxiety's sting, but it also dissolves the electricity that drives you toward truth. The task is not elimination, but transformation. To hear anxiety's cry and let it sharpen your perception of what matters most. Here lies the turning point most people never reach. Instead of treating anxiety as a cage, you recognize it as a compass pointing toward aliveness. It no longer says, "You are trapped." It says, "You are free and you must choose." And yes, the weight of freedom is unbearable at times. To know you choose your path in a world with no certainty is dizzying. But consider the alternative: to retreat into conformity, to ignore the call, to live safe and small, suffocated by unsaid words and unlived dreams. What is more unbearable? The trembling anxiety of freedom or the silent regret of imprisonment? So this is the final defiance, the greatest rebellion. To accept anxiety as proof of your freedom, as witness to your mortality, and as guide to authenticity. To stop asking, "How do I get rid of it?" and begin asking, "Where is it trying to take me?" Imagine looking at your anxiety not with hatred, but with strange gratitude. Imagine whispering back, "I hear you. I understand now. You are not here to destroy me. You are here to remind me that life is brief, that risk is required, that authenticity is the only safe ground." Suddenly, the dreadful weight becomes sacred weight. Suddenly, the pounding heart is not the enemy, but the drumbeat of life demanding to be lived. This is the secret anxiety wanted you to know all along. You are not broken. You are awake. Picture this: standing at the cliff of your own existence, the wind of uncertainty roaring through you, anxiety surging in your veins. For years you believed it meant danger, that you must turn back. But now you see it differently. Anxiety was the trembling of wings just before flight. The cliff is unavoidable. The leap is inevitable. Mortality guarantees it. But anxiety, faithful, misunderstood companion, was never blocking the way. It was summoning you forward with both dread and possibility. You may still feel your stomach tighten, your chest constrict, your mind spiral. That won't vanish. But it won't frighten you as before, because now you know what it means. Life is asking something of you. Life is saying, do not sleep through this chance. Do not waste what is fleeting. Do not betray yourself by pretending you are less than free. And so, perhaps for the first time, you feel not crushed but alive. Not at peace in the placid sense, but lit with a wild, urgent clarity. To love, to risk, to speak, to create, to dare. That is the ultimate truth anxiety has carried in its dreadful grip. It was never here to destroy you. It was here to remind you, again and again, that this is your one life, and it is asking to be lived fully, now.